Hey guys, it's Everyday Alchemy. I got the whole crew. I'm going to be making a different kind of potato-based soup. Should be really cool. We're doing the vegetarian thing again, but that'll be clear in a second. This is a Russian potato soup with mushrooms added. It's going to be a lot of fun and have far more layers of flavor than my last batch. To start with, you're going to need butter. That's to saute the mushrooms. After butter, you're going to need a leek. I have 3. You only really need 1. After the leek, you're going to need carrots. Recipe calls for large carrots, but I'm using baby carrots because I've got them already. After that, you need chicken broth. Again, I'm vegetarianizing this dish, so I'm going to be using vegetable broth. Set that aside. After that, you're going to need dill weed. I'm using this kind of dill weed. You can use whatever you've got. If it's already dried, that works too. You're also going to need salt and pepper. That's pretty standard fare for any sort of soup. I've got pepper and salt. After that, you're going to need a bay leaf, also pretty standard for soup. I've still got the bay leaves I used last time from Walmart. After that bay leaf, you're going to need a pound of potatoes. I've got fresh potatoes here that I'll be using. After those potatoes, for the base, you're going to need mushrooms, which we'll saute in a minute. I've got a ½ pound here. That'll be good. After the mushrooms, you're going to need some flour, which is a thickening agent. I don't know where that goes quite yet. You're also going to need some half and half. And then I'm going to use bacon because I love bacon. But that'll go after the soup is complete. Hey guys, this just kind of shows that when you're dicing your leeks, and I'm almost done with this, you want to avoid using the green bushy part at the top and instead take the white core. And I like to cut it into discs and then come back, stack the discs, and cut those. And when you're done, you'll wind up with something like this. This is a combination of my diced leeks and sliced carrots, which I'm going to be putting in to saute in a minute. Alright guys, once you melt about 2½ tablespoons of butter in the bottom of your soup pan or pot, you take your diced leeks and carrots. This is my completed amount of diced leeks and carrots, and you add them in. Now after you add all of them in, they should be in small bits like this so that they can cook easy and give off their flavor quickly. More surface area. After you've added them in, you come in with some sort of stirring spoon or spatula and you coat them with the butter, and then you cook them for 5 minutes. So you guys can see here that it's been 5 minutes. My leeks and carrots have gotten nicely brown. They've cooked well and they've absorbed a great deal of the butter. Now it's time to start building the base for my soup, which is going to start with 3 cups of vegetable broth, which I'm going to add first. This is only a 2-cup measuring cup, so I've got to come in and measure out another cup while I do this. I apologize for that, but my kitchen at college is not nearly as high-tech as the one I have at home. But that's 3 cups of vegetable broth. Then you come in and add half a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of dill. It's actually dill weed, and then 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper, as well as half of a bay leaf. Bay leaves are great in soup, and you remove them before you serve it. But I'm going to put all of that in at once. And then once I've added that, I'm going to start stirring it in. I'm going to let this cook for a little while and kind of sit while I start carving up my mushrooms and slicing them down to an easily sauteable size. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. It's been about 5 minutes. That's the time it took me to dice the mushrooms, and in that time the soup is set a little bit and it's time to come in and add the potatoes. These are my diced potatoes. There's a pound of them. I'm going to add these in slowly to prevent it from splashing. And after you've added those, you're going to stir them in so that everything's covered and cooking in the broth. Again, you can use chicken broth, but I'm using vegetable broth to keep this recipe vegetarian until the very end. That's for my girlfriend, who, as you guys know, is a vegetarian. I'll be adding bacon to my bowl after I'm done. After you've stirred in the potatoes, you want to cover this and let it sit for 20 minutes. The next segment should be either me uncovering this or I'll show you how I saute my mushrooms. This is my sauteing pan for my mushrooms. As you can see, I put butter in it and I've gotten it up to a reasonable heat. I wish I had some red wine, but I don't at the moment. I'd use that to season my sauteing mushrooms. But I'm going to add my ½ pound of mushrooms now. I'm going to begin to saute those in the butter. I'll add those into the soup after about 5 to 6 minutes of sauteing, and I'll show you that segment next. Alright, you guys can see here that my mushrooms have been sauteed and slightly brown. To kind of facilitate the sauteing process, I did add a little bit of vegetable broth and some salt. These are very nicely seasoned. These would be good on their own, but now that the soup's been cooking for about 20 minutes and has come to a decent temperature, I'm going to cut the soup's temperature down a little bit, and then I'm going to come in and add my sauteed mushrooms, including their juices. Now I'm doing that because the juices are just as good as the mushrooms themselves, and it would be a waste of flavor to put it down the drain. After I've added all of my mushrooms from my saute pan, I'm going to stir that in slowly. This is a very thick soup, that's worth noting, but it smells absolutely incredible. After I've stirred this in, I'm going to come in and remove the bay leaf. That was pretty easy. Now that the bay leaf is gone, I only have one step left to this soup, which is to come in with this mixture, which is half a cup of half and half, and then 2 tablespoons of flour. And you stir that until it's completely blended, and it's more of a thickening agent, and it's also going to change the color of this soup a little bit. But this should be very interesting. After I've added that, I'm going to stir it into my soup until it's completely blended. And I kind of have a creamy soup now, and again, it's very thick. I'm going to let this cook for another 10 minutes and blend, and then after it's blended, I will bowl it up and tell you what I think of the finished result. Alright, so this is my finished plating, or I guess bowling, of my soup. I'm really pleased with the way this turned out in terms of texture and color and smell. It's holding its heat very well because it's a thick soup, and I'm overall pleased with it, but I haven't tasted it yet, so I'm going to do that now. I really love this soup. It's got tons of flavor, and the texture of the mushroom contrasts well with the texture of all the vegetables, other than the mushroom. And then the garnish with the dill adds kind of a kick to it at the very end. I'm really pleased with how this recipe turned out. I'll be adding my bacon, and that'll probably be the finished product. Thanks for watching.